They must have been getting together and planning to have get-togethers, and so Mum and Dad were very much part of that jazz scene, and so the people that we were familiar with, first of all, Dad was the president of the Sydney Jazz Club, and which was at the Ironworkers Club in Sydney, and we used to go along there. Mm-hmm. And the people that we knew quite well were Dick Hughes, the mad piano player, Graham Bell, Abe Monsborough.
Wow, Abe Monsborough.
Yeah. Wow. Right? Yeah.
The first album I ever did for EMI was called Australian Jazz Spectrum, featuring a track by Abe Monsborough, one of the legends of Australian jazz, and that's where the name of my radio show comes from. Is the first album I did for EMI.
There
yes.
You go. Wow.
So I didn't think anybody knew that name.
Yeah, we
were
kids. It's just a childhood memory of that name. The choirs. There was Chris Choir and Willie Choir, and their famous mum, Pat Choir, played the piano, and they were very, very good family friends of ours. Yeah. And some of the best times of our childhood were going over to the choir's place for the best jazzo parties. And Willie and Chris, the little guys, similar ages to us. Sadly, both of them have passed. And Mum made them little swimming costumes out of Hawaiian print. Remember the cozies that the boys used to run around in? Anyway, we used to go to these fabo jazzo parties, and we were just expected to crash out on the lounge, so it'd all be raging around us. Piano and everything, and we were just it was really good time. So basically Bride and I stood no chance.
Well, look, it's absolute legends, because the most prestigious music award in the Australian jazz scene is called the Bell Awards, after Graham Bell, a lovely man. I went to parties at his place at Clovelly, and he asked me to manage him at one stage, but I couldn't. I explained to him I had a professional career, but to be surrounded by talents like him. Dick Hughes helped me when I ran the Jubilee Jazz for the Queen's Silver Jubilee at the Opera House, and he just knew everybody, and he interviewed everybody, and these were just family friends popping in, jamming with your parents or playing at the hall, and you guys grew up in that environment.
We did, and also we had friends who came over from the States, or family friends, with the Catherine Durham dance group. They were first Black American dance group to come over, and somehow Mum and Dad befriended them, and so part of my musical history is that Antonio was a conga player, and Yolanda was a dancer, and they gave me for my 4th birthday this amazing album of Orfeo Negro, Black Orpheus from Brazil, and so I grew up also listening to that amazing macumba and samba music, which took me to Brazil, which is in my story.
Well, it's in Pauline's book, in fact, the story of you going to Brazil. Yeah. But another story that's in that book, now I want to skip a bit, because people would know of your Sydney performances, and you've been in a number of groups and things like that. But one of the interesting things, and this is going back a bit, but at a very, young age, I'd say the 20s, I think it must have been, you must have been in your 20s. For some reason, you had a chance encounter with a legend of the blues and blues rock, Bo Diddley. Now tell us that story.
Ooh.
Yeah, because well, look, I'll give you a hint. She toured with Bo Diddley, and you even went to America.
I did lots of things with Bo Diddley.
And touring with Bo Diddley.
Let's put it that way.
All right.
I here we are in this little room together. I didn't put the full story in the book. I kind of skimmed over that, just saying, that's another story. But while we're all here this evening, I think. Okay, so the year was 1974. I was 20 years old. I was going to Teachers College in Wollongong, and heard that Bo Diddley was coming to town. He was going to be playing at the town hall, and of course I knew about Bo Diddley. I mean, Bridie and I were so lucky to have been raised on jazz, blues and gospel. We grew up with the sounds of Big Bill Broonzy, Mahalia Jackson, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. That was our schooling then. That's what we lived that, didn't we, Bridie? It was just like non-stop. That's what we listened to. That was our thing. We would go to bed at night and we'd hear this wailing trumpet, you know, Louis Armstrong's Hot Five. So we were okay, so Bo Diddley's coming to town. So I decided to get down there and this little sneaky joint on the way. and then so I got there early and I got a seat in the very front row.
Yeah.
And it happened to be right in front of the mic stand.
What was
and
the venue? So I always think it was the Horton Pavilion.
no, it was Wollongong Town Hall.
Oh, that's right.
And so Bo starts up, the band starts up. I mean, how many of us here went to see Bo Diddley? He used to come out so often, right? He was on a thing of coming out to Australia. And apparently, according to Bo, I was sitting there giving him sweet, sly smiles. And actually what I was doing was sort of sitting there looking at him and going, wow, this guy is really, his ego is huge. Like, it was all about, I'm a man and I'm the best thing. And, you know, and I'm looking at him going, oh my God. But I loved the music, I loved his vibe, I loved his energy, I loved what was going on. It was all pretty cool, but I was kind of being a little bit like, you know. Anyway, sweet sly smiles. At the end of the night, he called me up. He said, "You, come on stage." I go, "Me? Okay." Zzz. Up I go. I found a way up side of the stage, and it was really loud up there. Let me tell you. And anyway, so he's doing this thing, you know, and he comes over and he shouts at me, "I want to see you after the show."
Yeah.
And I went, "Okay."
Well, he went home to your family's home for dinner. Mum and parents gave dinner.
Look, he became a family friend.
Yeah. And you actually toured, travelled with him in Australia and travelled with him in America.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Well, basically, I became his travelling companion.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And he was a really sweet, funny dude. And we liked hanging out together.
Yeah.
He loved the fact that I played music, and you might have noticed Bo had a thing about female musicians. Mm-hmm. He was always playing with a female musician somewhere in his outfit. And I had the honour, actually, when I went to the States with Bo, of staying in Peggy Malone's apartment. Peggy Malone was Lady Bo, from her band Lady Bo and the Family Jewel. She was just a fantastic blues artist, and Wally Malone was her husband, bass player, and they put me up at their place, and we went on tour all up and down the coast of California, and then flew over to Chicago, and Chicago was amazing. Bo took me to a blues club there, and I met little Johnny Taylor, and watched that show, and then he took me to Maxwell Street Markets, and John Lee Hooker was standing there going, you know, just like, and it was winter, and it's a big 44-gallon drum with a fire, you know, and he's standing there playing, and I'm just going, oh my God.
It's a bit like a scene out of the Blues Brothers movie, when John Lee Hooker's in it, isn't it, where he's playing in the street market.
It was amazing. It was a really, really special time in my life, of me as a young woman, and obviously it influenced me as a musician, and Bo taught me how to play open tuning, tuning in E. He tuned to the E chord, open E, and showed me a few of his chords, and so
It was interesting, I think, like when I was knocking around the jazz scene, of course, after the Jubilee Jazz, I helped the Chris Barber Jazz Band reorganise their Australian tour, teed up all their television, radio and press interviews, you know. And of course, Chris Barber, as a jazz musician, brought the American Black Blues people to England. And as a promoter, he also ran the Reading Festival, owned the Marquee Club and the Marquee Studios, and a booking agent, and brought them to England. And then that influenced bands like the Rolling Stones, who he gave their first paid job to in Alexis Corner. But then these people came to Australia and opened the door for, so we had the English blues, and then we had the American blues coming to influence our own blues scene. Now, you got to meet one of the English blues people one time.
That was John Mayall. That was my
yes,
first.
the Blues Breakers.
That was my first adventure meeting famous people.
Yeah,
I went to see John Mayall. I was 16 years old. He was on at the State Theatre.
right.
And I don't know, I just got in my head, I'm just going to go backstage and meet this guy. So
Yeah.
I found a way there,
And met John Mayall.
and I did. I met John Mayall and I went, oh, I know how to do this.
Was that before he met Eric Clapton, or so he met you before Eric Clapton? Yeah, that would be bragging rights, wouldn't it?
That would be, I had no idea at all. But I also did climb up some scaffolding at Sydney Town Hall
Yeah.
to get in to see John Martin.
Oh right.
I did
Oh
not.
wow. Legendary guitar player. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, that was my style back then. I've settled down a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she left St Trinians and graduated from Teachers College eventually.
I
Became
did,
a
I did,
responsible
yeah.
citizen.
I did, mostly responsible citizen, but yeah, the teaching thing, I just found it really hard. Like I'm sure, look, so many musicians here tonight. It's just amazing to see you. I was expecting kind of, people who are interested in books, and reading about musicians.
Yeah.
But I can see some pretty damn awesome, scary musicians sitting here, and I have to play the guitar in a minute. Oh shit!
Yeah.
Anyway, it's and Chris
Yeah.
Turner. Don't tell Chris Turner, but he's one of my favourite ever guitar players.
Yeah.
I think I told him that once myself.
It looks like you've got an invite for her next album. Yeah.
Anyway,
But,
so
look,
teaching was good too.
Sally, you've had an interesting career. Of course, your parents really didn't want you to give up your studies, and you became a special education teacher and helped support a lot of disabled kids
I did.
along the way.
Yeah.
But always you kept that angle in there on the weekends with your music and things like that, and it's great. And of course, now you've got the new group with the guys from the Cyril B. Butter Band, and Roscoe's here tonight.
That is right. And what a pleasure, what an honour it is to be playing with Roscoe, who's one of our most desirable and wanted drummers.
Yeah.
And he's so good.
And of course, Dave Green's here, Sally's husband.
David Green.
But besides being Sally's husband, he's a killer bass player too.
I would like to say some words about David Green, who's this quiet gentleman sitting down the front here, and he's probably going to get hugely embarrassed and tell me all the way home, why did you do that to me? But David auditioned for the Sally King Band, and I know exactly how Dave Tice feels about having your name in the band. It was not my idea, it was someone else's idea to keep my name, my profile up. But anyway, Dave auditioned for the band, and he certainly got the gig.
Yeah.
38 years later, we're still playing music together.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful thing for us, and he's stuck with me through thick and thin. And David has worked with people like Broderick Smith and Renee Gayer, and some amazing people in in Melbourne before coming up to Sydney.
Yeah.
And
I believe he toured overseas once that too.
Dave doesn't like me saying this, but he was part of the band that Air Supply took to America when they were really killing it over there, and was on the tour bus for 2 years along with the likes of Rex Go and all those amazing people. So take my hat off to you. Thank you, sir, for sticking with me for such a long time.
Look, Sally, you're going to perform a couple of songs for us. So,
I am.
Is one of them going to be the song you co-wrote with Bo Diddley?
I didn't actually co-write it.
Yeah.
I condensed that little story I told you about Bo into 3 verses.
Yeah.
And so I'll sing that one for you.
All right.
And then I'm going to do a bit of a boogie thing.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I
Here
think
we
I'm
go.
going to avoid the
All right, I'll get out
I'm
of
going
the
to
way.
stand up, I reckon.